Hello, my darlings. Mother Raven here with some wonderful ghost stories of my own. I'm going to start a series of my own paranormal experiences that I've had in my life and as a paranormal investigator. I thought I'd start first with the house I grew up in. It's a typical old farmhouse style two-story. The land was deeded first to a railroad worker back at the time of the Intercontinental Railroad. It has been added to and remodeled very often since. My great-uncle owned it in the early half of the 20th century, and my dad has done an amazing job of keeping it in good shape. These details are kind of important later on. When I was about 3 or 4, one of my first memories is sleeping in the old bedroom upstairs. My parents were right next door. How much of this is childish imagination and how much is true, I can't say. But I remember a presence in the room when I would try and fall asleep. I'd be petrified. I'd see things floating above my head. My mother would naturally write it off and comfort me as just my imagination. Why that comforts a child, I don't know. When my younger brothers were born, I moved to my parents' master bedroom, and they moved downstairs. It was the 70s, and they wanted a waterbed, which the second store couldn't hold. This is more sure footing in my memory. I remember a soldier standing in the southeast corner of the room by the stairs. But he didn't feel bad, just watchful. I'd tell my mom again, and she'd just say it was just old clothes in my imagination. I was sure something was out of the window down by the fire hydrant. It was male, but that's about all I could feel from it. Now let's start with the main ghost, the one my brother named, to its great dismay, the stair monster. Every night, footsteps would start at the bottom of the stairs and go all the way to the top. The stairs themselves were right inside my room, so I'd hear the footfalls and see no one coming. I always felt the eyes on me. Then it would check my brothers in their bunk beds next door. My brother could hear a soft breathing sound. Then the sounds would descend again down the stairs. If we were in the basement, the stairs there being in the entire length of the house away from the ones upstairs, we would still hear the same footfalls, the same pattern of sounds, the same rhythm. I always had trouble getting friends to stay more than one night for sleepovers. One night a friend woke me from a sound sleep as we were sleeping in sleeping bags in the basement family room. She said there were whispers on the stairs. We could hear 2 voices, but couldn't make out what was said. I yelled at them and told them that we were trying to sleep and to be quiet. It instantly went silent. I told my friend they wouldn't bother us again and rolled over and went back to sleep. She was my very best friend, but she never slept over again. Years before all this, my mother had seen it, or something else. She was lying in bed. My father had gone to visit his parents. She glanced up and saw a black silhouette of a man in the doorway. He had a cowboy duster on and a huge 10-gallon hat. She just asked him where he'd got that silly hat from. She blinked and he was gone. She thought it was my father, but obviously it wasn't. My brother saw the same outline standing outside the back door by the garage door. The door you can hear slamming all the time, even when it's locked. But that thing does not like my brother. A few years ago, he had come to borrow some of my youngest brother's games and CDs without asking. My youngest brother has Williams syndrome and will always be 12 years old mentally. The ghost didn't like this. My youngest brother earns his own money at the grocery store and buys his own stuff with it. The ghost threw a resin violin ornament across the room. It hit the wall right next to my brother's head and broke in 2. Things have always disappeared in the house. It seems to have a lot of kinetic energy somehow. Keys, toys, and my brother's BB gun that's been missing for 25 plus years. This usually occurs to my dad, however, especially when he denies the presence or existence of a ghost. Once his brand new bootlaces were found, stretched out on the front porch, in the snow with no tracks around it. Once he lost work keys, searched for days, and was very despondent over it that he'd have to tell them that he'd lost the keys. I told him to nicely ask the ghost for him, and he did. And 10 minutes later they were on the kitchen table, where anyone could have seen them, but nobody but my dad was home at the time. A few months ago, my daughters visited the house with the intent of finding caffeinated soda for our dinner. As they looked, a cake slid right off the middle of the counter and landed on the floor. They've never gone back for that again. My nephew is a quarterback in high school. He and his big, tough football buddies would come and hang out at my parents'. They always had snacks and a big TV. My parents always had snacks and a big TV. Then things started happening. One boy saw a figure in white walk across the doorway, with no one but them there. Another time when they showed up at my parents' home, with no one there. The entire team heard my mother call my nephew from her bedroom. He checked. She wasn't there. She wasn't home. And his friends didn't come back, no matter how many snacks or how big the TV. Last summer, my nephew was helping paint the walls on the stairwell down to the basement. The basement is now used for storage. My mother has a 5-foot-tall snowman in the basement. She had bought it at a yard sale, not at a store. It was facing away from my nephew as he painted. Soon he looked up and it had moved a quarter of a turn. He was freaked, but thought maybe he'd been mistaken about how it was facing to begin with. The next time he looked up, it was staring straight at him. He instantly noped it up the stairs and out of the house. When I asked my mom why it was in the basement, it had been in my youngest brother's room. My youngest brother spoke up and said that he moved it because it kept moving at night. And after that, he had slept in the living room and not his own bed. He does that to this very day. The strangest new development is a parade of shadow figures that can be seen outside the kitchen window at any given time. They simply walk by the windows as if they were walking down a city street, the shadows being nearly transparent. You can see them against the cars parked there, darker than the shadow of the house, and no way it could be anything explainable. It couldn't be someone on the roof or on the street. I've seen them, my parents have seen them all the time, my kids have seen them, my parents' dog barks at them. So he sees something too. To this day, my dad no longer denies them. And one day, I will inherit this gem of a spot. Investigations every weekend, then. Thank you, my darlings. If you enjoy my ghost stories, please give me a like and a subscribe and let me know what you think, good or bad. Fan or troll, I encourage all communication. And my darlings, I will see you next time under the trees.